day 7 of our Allyship Journey. Today we will talk more specifically about our bodies. We live in a society that is designed for, caters to, and praises small bodies. We see it in the size of an airplane door, the weight capacity of a chair, the ease of sleeping into a restaurant booth, access to comfortable and fashion-forward clothing. These daily challenges may have never come across your radar, unless you have lived in a larger body. People in larger bodies face consistent systemic oppression that makes it difficult or impossible to find clothes and spaces that fit, healthcare that's effective and non-discriminatory, equal access to employment. According to WHO, worldwide obesity has nearly tripled since 1975. Around 2 billion adults are overweight, 39% of the adults. And 13% of the adults, 650 million people, are obese. Overweight and obese children and adolescents have risen dramatically from just 4% in 1975 to over 18% in 2016. Obesity and overweight are caused by our alimentation style and the increasingly sedentary nature of many forms of work, changing modes of transportation and increasing urbanization. The systemic changes towards intensive agriculture and food processing have dramatic health impacts. The constant bullying, reminders, and commands fat people receive have led to a multi-billion-dollar diet industry that preys on people, especially women, to find insecurities with their appearance, the things they eat, or their decision to stay active or not. Diet culture is a consequence of fatphobia. Historically, white women were supposed to practice discipline to keep their bodies slim and to look as ladylike as possible in comparison to the fat black women who they thought were savages. Even people, mostly women, who are just 10 or 20 pounds overweight are often fat-shamed on social media sites. The belief that fatness equates with laziness or lack of self-control remains pervasive today. Obese people are stereotyped as being lazy, incompetent, unattractive, lacking willpower, and to blame for their excess weight. Overweight people are less likely to be hired, are lower paid, and have fewer opportunities, are often outright bullied in the workplace. And as these stories and studies reveal, women bear the brunt of the discrimination. Body shaming is defined as inappropriate negative statements and attitudes towards another person's weight or size. There are negative attitudes in the media and elsewhere about celebrities who are too fat, who have not gotten rid of the baby weight in an appropriate amount of time. And people might not realize they benefit from thin privilege when sitting comfortably in train and plane seats and considering this for granted. Beyond body size, attractiveness is also another surprising privilege. We're taught at a really young age that ugly equals bad and hot equals good. Cinderella's wicked stepsisters were made to be ugly and undesirable. Attractiveness is mostly defined as facial and body symmetry, proportional anatomy, height, particularly among men, a full set of straight white teeth, a full head of hair, clear, evenly toned, taut skin, a well-toned physique, proportional features, and large eyes. Hotness isn't just a privilege, it's sometimes the ultimate privilege. It transcends other social hierarchies. First, hot people are more desired romantically. But the advantage of good looks goes far beyond finding a mate. Attractive people are more likely to be seen as competent and be hired for a job. They are perceived as smarter, more trustworthy, kinder. They are more likely to benefit from acts of kindness from a stranger. They have greater self-esteem. If you're running for office, you might fare better if you're good-looking. If you're attractive, strangers might assume you have a happier life. Children who are perceived to be more attractive are treated with more respect and admiration from adults and peers alike. All this pressure on looking thin and attractive leads to exponential aesthetic procedures in 85% of the cases for women. The most popular surgical cosmetic procedure worldwide was breast augmentation, followed by liposuction and eyelid surgery. The most popular non-surgical procedures included Botox, hyaluronic acid, hair removal, and photorejuvenation. Top 3 countries being the US, Brazil, and Mexico. The pressure is also on what women wear. Recently, French education minister advised female teenagers to dress in a Republican way after some young women were expelled from school for wearing crop tops. From the recent burkini rulings in the south of France to the news that women in Iran are forced to cut off their hair and disguise themselves as men if they want to leave the house without a hijab, not to mention the ongoing insistence that rape victims should tell juries what they were wearing before their attackers are found innocent, society is still bafflingly obsessed with the way women cover up. Finally, one of the latest discrimination on our bodies is ageism, stereotyping on the basis of age. Employers often have negative attitudes towards older workers, especially older women. Consumerism urges us all to fight aging as if it were a battle we could win, even though we know in our hearts that's a lie. Mantras like 70 is the new 50 emphasize the need to be vigorous and vital for as long as possible, yet offer no alternative scenarios for those with degenerative diseases, loss of cognition, or suffering from loneliness. Shame and fear create markets for skincare and pharmaceutical companies. Only 12% of speaking characters in Hollywood movies are 60 and up, and many are portrayed as impaired. Ageism is believing that wrinkles are ugly and that it's sad to be old. It's prejudice against our future selves. It's calling adult women miss as a praise. It's lying about your age at your birthday or considering asking a woman's age as a lack of respect. It's believing that aging enhances man and devalues women. It's assuming we are too old to do something or date someone. By 2050, almost 2 billion people, 1 out of 5 of us, will be age 60 and up. Let's remember that all isms are socially constructed ideas. We make them up so they can change over time. All the prejudice we have about different collectives are extremely present in the healthcare system. Medicine, as a site of social power, reflects the contours of power in society at large, and patriarchal values are prevalent in healthcare provision as a structural trend. Medical experimentations on enslaved women or people of color have led to reduced trust in physicians and medical research within communities of color. Women are still often perceived as reproductive beings, which leads to non-reproductive health problems being under-researched and under-diagnosed, while reproduction is over-medicalized. For example, while there have been significant advances in artificial reproductive technologies, non-reproductive health issues that are important to women's well-being or pleasure, such as menopause and female orgasm, remain under-researched. Female participants have long been excluded as research subjects, leading to lacuna in specificities of disease in females. Health conditions which affect both sexes can manifest in particular ways in female patients, like anemia, osteoporosis, cardiovascular disease, rendering standard treatments suboptimal or unsafe. Likewise, pharmaceuticals whose safety and efficacy are inferred from studies on male patients are sometimes unsafe and ineffective for female patients. Gendered inequalities in healthcare are also widely reported in clinical encounters, as physicians make assumptions about women's health based on gender stereotypes about pain thresholds and patient credibility, while drawing on male-centered research and guidelines. Women's pain reports are often discredited or their pain inappropriately attributed to mental health issues. Black patients are less likely to receive treatments from myocardial infarction than white patients, with Black women faring worst of all, with the highest resultant mortality rate. Obstetrical and gynecological violence is a form of violence that has long been hidden and is still too often ignored. In the privacy of a medical consultation or childbirth, women are victims of practices that are violent or that can be perceived as such. Some gynecologists can be judgmental, patronizing, or even uncooperative, holding specific views on family planning or abortion. Remember that modern medicine emerged from a strong patriarchal uprising which resulted in the witch hunts. The system has been anti-women from its very inception. Centuries of female exclusion has meant women's diseases are often missed, misdiagnosed, or remain a total mystery, such as the 10% of reproductive-aged women affected by endometriosis worldwide, who take on average 7.5 years to be diagnosed from first symptoms. Around the world, an alarming number of women and girls with disabilities have been and continue to be denied these rights through the practice of forced sterilization. The violence towards non-dominant collectives is also present in the field of mental health. Feminists have been suggested that the higher level of mental illness observed in women is a consequence of the oppression they face, an oppression which drives them into madness and mental disorder, and also that the concept of mental illness is a social construct, inappropriately and incorrectly applied to women by a patriarchal order as a means of social control. In her book, Women and Madness, Phyllis Chesler argues that women, and especially women of color, are negatively impacted by psychiatry and psychology due to the dominance of men in those fields, and the misunderstanding of the systemic oppression the patient is going through. Depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts are often diagnosed as individual issues that require pharmaceutical treatment without acknowledging the systemic violence surrounding the person. According to Mayo Clinic, depression is diagnosed twice as much in women as in men. But depression is actually a symptom of powerlessness. When you feel powerless, when you are oppressed in the domination system, you develop coping mechanisms. And mental illness or depression can actually be one of them. In most countries, having money is a passport to better health and a longer life, while being poor all too often means more sickness and an earlier grave. People from poor communities can expect to die 10 or 20 years earlier than people in wealthy areas. In developing countries, a child from a poor family is twice as likely to die before the age of 5 than a child from a rich family. Every day, 10,000 people die because they lack access to affordable health care. And each year, 100 million people are forced into extreme poverty due to healthcare costs. So as a reflecting exercise, I'd like to ask you, what is your personal situation? Do you consider yourself attractive? Have you ever been confronted to fat shaming or ageism? Have you experienced sexism or racism in your healthcare treatment? Did you report it? Have you ever postponed a medical treatment for lack of money? Let us know. Thank you very much.